Hi friends, happy 2021. I cannot believe we've entered a new year. It's always such a surreal thing when a new calendar year rolls around, but this year especially has just felt extra odd. Like I said on Instagram, if only the crap of 2020 didn't have to roll into this new year. So this video is kind of part 2 of the video I uploaded end of last year. Like I said in the last video, I was going to continue on and film, and I did do that. I even edited part of that video, but with it filmed so close to Christmas, I just didn't get a chance to edit it all quick enough. And then I went into a bit of a unmotivated, depressed slump after Christmas, after things quietened down. I think leading up to Christmas I managed to stay quite busy, but when things just stop after Christmas, yeah, I just struggled a bit mentally and emotionally with a few things. My dad's terminal illness and just closing another year still with empty arms and not really knowing what we're doing next or where to go from here. If you're new here, my husband and I have been trying to have a baby for almost 7 years. I myself have had 6 miscarriages. We've done multiple IVF cycles, and this last year we attempted to go down the gestational surrogacy path with our incredible friend, and that sadly ended in 2 losses and another embryo that didn't stick. So yeah, we kind of closed off this year just feeling completely exhausted in every way. To carry on from the last video that I uploaded about our surrogacy journey coming to an end, I wanted to talk about where I've been mentally processing, trying to work out what on earth we do next. Our last failed transfer to our surrogate was in October. Since then I've just been consumed every single day about what we do. To get an idea of where my egg reserve was at, which is something I hadn't had tested for 5.5 years, I got my AMH tested end of November, early December last year. When I originally got it tested in 2015, I think it was on the higher end. I don't have PCOS, but it was a decent number. It was 43.2, I think. We measure it differently here in Australia than I think the US, so I'll leave the conversion rate below. I got it retested, as I said, and it came back at 47.7, so it increased. I was surprised it had increased, but I have heard that it can fluctuate a bit depending on the time of day and things, but given it was 5.5 years later, I would have assumed it had gone down at least a bit. So I guess it was just peace of mind that it hadn't plummeted. So really, to give you an idea of where my head's been at, I've been going back and forth between 3 different options. The first of the 3 options was for Tim and I to create more embryos and try a full immune suppressing protocol with drugs I haven't tried before. That of course requires us to do more IVF stim cycles. We've done 5 egg collections so far, and we've always only created a small number of day 5 embryos, or a small number of embryos make it to freeze. With that option, I don't know how many egg retrievals we would need to do before we get a couple of embryos. The last egg collection cycle we did, we got quite lucky and got 3 embryos, 2 PGS tested and 1 untested. Those embryos were transferred to our surrogate, and the 2 PGS normal, one of them was a chemical pregnancy and the other miscarriage at 6 weeks, and the untested embryo didn't stick. My husband and I have been in the unexplained category for a long time until we discovered a DQ alpha match, which is quite controversial between specialists. When it comes to reproductive immunology, it's still quite controversial, and depending on who you're speaking to, the opinions change quite dramatically. So it's quite a frustrating position to be in. Given we haven't fallen pregnant through IVF or naturally in over 4.5 years, I do believe that it's an immune issue because we share that DQ alpha gene. We're a partial match. My body is on the defense and sees the embryo as being something that shouldn't be there because it's too similar to my genetics. There are immune suppressing drugs that I haven't tried before, which is why I have been toying with that idea. again, in saying that, we were hoping that surrogacy would rule out our embryos being the issue, or one of the issues. And of course, if you saw my previous videos, you'll know that we discovered high natural killer cell levels in our surrogate after we'd transferred 2 of our PGS normal embryos. So it's hard to know whether it was the embryos or the natural killer cells or both. I would say the embryos had a big part to play, but it's just the not knowing with that added factor of the natural killer cells. I do question whether there's any point in creating more embryos if the main issue lies in them. It could just be a numbers game. You know, we might just need to do many, many more transfers until we hit the jackpot. But given we are almost 7 years into this, our tanks are feeling very, very empty. Our wallets are feeling very empty. Our souls, just mentally, this is all exhausting. IVF, failed treatment, failed attempts. It's just very, very tiring doing this year after year. Infertility is just draining, as those of you who have experienced will know. As much as the idea of doing another IVF stim cycle fills me with dread, I think I would do it. But it's scary with no guarantees, and I'm very aware that my husband's tank is running very, very low. The second thing we've been considering is egg donation. Even though my AMH level is good and I've got plenty of eggs to work with, I did have a lengthy conversation with an embryologist at my clinic who went over some of the lab notes for our previous IVF cycles and mentioned that some of the eggs looked dark and grainy and didn't show resistance when the needle was injected into them. It wasn't the majority of the eggs, but there were some that didn't look like they were the best quality. And then the low fertilization results could be another indicator of egg quality. We did get Tim's sperm tested for DNA fragmentation end of 2018, and that came back at 31% when it should be under 30%. Another specialist we've spoken to doesn't seem too concerned about that number, and since then he's made lifestyle changes and he was on antioxidants. Doing an egg donor cycle wouldn't eliminate the DQ alpha gene match and the immune issue. The issue lies in the sperm and the uterus. So with that option I would still need to be on a full immune protocol, and we'd still need to do an IVF cycle with a donor and create embryos. Egg donor is definitely an option, but there are no guarantees with embryos, how many we make, whether we get any PGS normal. It's more expensive than if Tim and I try and create embryos with our genetics. Could have more success because it's different eggs, and I mean, we've never really been told that it's an egg quality issue, but could make a difference. And the third option is embryo donation, which eliminates the whole IVF side of things, creating embryos, and we begin the journey with embryos that are donated to us that don't have a genetic link, but will hopefully eliminate the immune issue. And hopefully with a donated embryo, my body will accept the embryo and act like it should. Of course, with that option comes a grieving process, and with the egg donor, but especially with the donated embryo, just grieving genetics, grieving the dream you always had of seeing the man you love in your children and yourself in that baby. And genetics isn't everything, but it is still a lot to wrap your head around, and there's a lot of emotions that come with processing that and changing that idea that you always had. Embryo donation is something I have had in the back of my mind for a number of years now, I would say, maybe 3. I've seen beautiful success stories with Tim not really being on social media. He hasn't really been as exposed to that as much as I have. We did have Ayla and Caleb come and stay with us last summer for just under a week. That was beautiful to see them with Nova and see firsthand how magical it can be. Obviously, going down the embryo donor road requires finding people willing to donate their embryos. If you don't know what embryo donation is, it's when a couple go through IVF to create their family and are left with a surplus of embryos frozen that they can either discard, have destroyed, continue paying for storage, or they can choose to donate them to a family needing embryos to create their own family. We made a pact last year not to talk about anything fertility related for the rest of the year, 2020, and I brought it up for the first time on Monday this week, and we had the chat, and it wasn't easy. Tim's feeling like he's in a space where he's not sure how much more he can do. If we do try to create more of our genetically linked embryos and do an immune protocol and that fails, he doesn't think he can do anything else. So we reached a point in the discussion where we were at two places. Either we try to create more genetically linked embryos and do an immune protocol, or we try with donor embryos and close the door on genetics. And we made the big decision this week that we would go down the embryo donor road. I've always had an open heart and mind about exploring alternative family building options, but it's a different thing to say we will do this to actually making the decision. It just feels very final. There is grief to work through when closing the door on genetics. The day after we had that discussion, I watched an Instagram story reel from Defining Mum on Instagram, who is incredible. She's created a space of support and a space where there are webinars for families who are thinking of going down the donor path or have gone down the donor path to create their family. And she shared something that really resonated with me, and I wasn't even going to share this in this video, but I just thought of it because it's really powerful. It just really resonated with me, or the mixture of emotions, and it might help others understand the complexity of making these kinds of decisions. And I'll leave a link to her Instagram page below for anyone who needs that support, who are in the same boat trying to decide what to do, where to go from here. I definitely feel a mixture of emotions. I feel hope. I also feel fear. What if we try donated embryos and they also don't bring us our baby? I've reached a point where it's hard to imagine things going right. For 7 years, everything we've tried hasn't worked, and we have tried so hard to have this baby, tried so many things, spent so much time, money, and our energy trying to make it happen, and we've gotten nowhere. And so it is really hard to imagine finally reaching that goal. Yeah, it's hard for me to say I entered this year feeling optimistic and hopeful. I felt very different this year to how I felt in previous years. Previous years we've had plans. We've either had plans to start surrogacy or do IVF, more IVF treatment, whatever it may have been. I had that hope, and I still do have hope, remarkably. Somehow I do. I'm scared. I'm scared that we're just going to continue to have our hearts broken. But we're not going to get anywhere if we don't try. So we're hoping 2021 will bring us the baby we've been longing for so long. My younger sister had her baby a few days ago, and I met her yesterday, so I'm a very proud auntie to a 4-day-old baby. I shared a post on Instagram last night saying how full my auntie heart feels and how sad my mama heart feels, and I think that just sums it up. It's just very mixed. Like I said in that post, it is okay to feel both sadness and joy simultaneously. So if you find yourself in that position as well, my heart goes out to you. You're not alone and your feelings are valid and normal. I hope you're all staying safe and well. I'm thinking of all of you in the UK who have gone into lockdown number 3, and I'm thinking of you guys in the States with everything going on at the moment. But let's just hope there are brighter days ahead of 2021. I am so thankful for this community and for all of your support through every decision, trial, heartbreak we've faced. Thank you. Sending my love and prayers out to all of you around the world. Take care, guys.
An angel is what I need to bring me up to full speed. Your shades of blue holds feather wings and arms made out of golden strings. I'll give anything